Hello everyone. Hopefully my audio is working today. Last week we had a slight difficulty. So I'm Carmen, one of the 3D modelers here at Firestorm. I do most of the, I wouldn't say technical stuff, but like the Houdini related stuff. Not a VFX artist, but I do a lot of modeling in Houdini because it's fun. Don't really have a reason for it. I enjoy it. Is it the most quick workflow? No, but it is a lot of fun. And it has helped me in a pinch on projects that I've worked on in my, let's say, professional career. So, is it the most straightforward software to learn? Is it the most straightforward software to do? No, no, it is not. But it is, again, a lot of fun. So, we have been working on this tower for the last few weeks, and this is sort of where we are at. In terms of today, I will be working on it a little bit, but I've kind of reached a point with this tower where I need to do some research for in terms of how to take it further because over the course of the last few weeks, I've kept running into this issue where I want to be able to swap out these segments, and as it is currently, I cannot. So I'm going to have to research a bit of a workflow for that, which is a later problem. In terms of today, what I'd like to do is create sort of this type of look, where it's basically just a bunch of pillars that attach on top of the segment, because why not? It's fun. So that is the one aim for today. The other aim is we're going to be deviating away from the tower and we'll be creating little houses. Just to switch it up, keep it interesting, have some fun. There's not too much thought that will go into it. It will be a lot easier than the tower because it's a square shape, and square shapes are generally much more lenient. Ideally, I'd want this to be a lot more editable than the tower was. I think we'll have an easier time of it. Um, but we'll see. We'll see. Right, so in terms of the actual pillars, what I'd probably do, let me just check what my geometry is like. Because I'm going to have to choose sort of a segment to steal from, so to speak. Could probably, we're not going to be able to steal from the bottom segment. Actually, I lie, we can. Right, so my thought process there is I'm going to copy to points. So I'm going to create a pillar that will then copy to points to determine placement. However, there's way more points on this bottom cylinder than I need copies of. Or copies of pillars. So due to that, I'll probably use a group arrange to condense it down a little bit and copy to every second or maybe even every third or fourth point. We'll see. I believe every second point will kind of be that many, so it might be every four. So, starting point. Probably going to have to go. Second one is the simplest, so let's go to there. And see what we've got to work with. Right. I believe this is our bottom. It is not. Where's our bottom? Let's see. Okay. I won't be able to see it on your side, but my tablet is being wonky again, so I'll just quickly unplug it, plug it back in, and I'll be back in 10 seconds. And I'm back. Right, I need to replace the cable. The cable is faulty, but it is one of those things. Right, so. We want the main cylinder that is creating this, everything basically. So that is that one. But it might actually, we can use either of these. We could use this one as well. Right. Now, ideally, I wouldn't want to lose the naming conventions for these, but we'll see what we can do about that. Alright, so I think I could also just copy it, create a new segment, because I'm trying to think here what the best approach to the less collateral solution is, because this is technically already built into a segment. So yes, I can steal areas of this node network, but that'll mean I'll have a network within a network within a network, and I won't be able to split the different networks out as easily. So I might actually pivot and copy this one, and we'll create a new network. So as it is currently, this part is the first segment, this one is the second segment, that is the third. In terms of the actual tower itself, obviously the first segment is the bottom, middle, top, and then we've also got a roof that is down here at the bottom. So just for further context. Now, in terms of this network over here, we're going to simplify it a lot because we only technically need the bottom. We don't need the top, we don't need the patterns, we don't need anything really, unless we want to do a fence of some sort. Which we might. We might want to do that. So let's keep those nodes for it. That'll be... which ones? Where is it? It'll be these. Just quickly check. And yes, and then also, where's the top and the bottom? Did I delete it? Let's see, I think I might have. Okay, wait, let me quickly undo that. We can see where that's coming from. Just quickly see, and that gives us that. So where is the Boolean polybill? There's a sweep for this. That goes into there, so that's not coming from there. Resample attribute create, that's not that. Oh, I've lost the plot. I've lost the plot. Here it is. Okay, that's fine. That is fine. We can actually delete these and we'll be good to go. Unless this is referencing something. It is indeed. Now this is the downside to condensing nodes down. Sometimes you lose areas that you would actually like to keep. Now I know the value was something like 1.2, roughly. Yeah. Okay. So now if we do want to keep this little fenced in area, we can. Will I? I do not know, but now I have the option to keep it, so we'll go from there. In terms of the rest, there's a switch here, but we're not going to be switching, so it's fine. I can get rid of that. I can get rid of this, which means I can get rid of the size, which means I can get rid of the boolean and the bevel. Right. Now, in terms of this, we technically only need the bottom. So alternative to this would actually be to use a circle, because then we don't have to worry about deleting out the bottom or the top. So I think we're actually going to do that. I quickly want to see how this compares in size, because ideally, right, I think I'm going to reduce these back down to 1. Now, the reason they're at 1.2 now is because on the other segments, we've got the main cylinder shape, but then from there it goes outwards, either for like a rounded, what would you call that? I don't know what it would be called. In Sims 4 it's called a trim. So but yeah, bottom line is there's like a little piece on some of them, and then for the other ones it's got a literal roof, but due to that the tops are wider than the bottoms. So I had to scale them out in order to accommodate for the fence that's going around it. So having said all of that, we probably don't need it at 1.2 because we do not have a roof for this segment, mainly because it's not really a full segment. We'll only have pillars, and I'm not sure what else yet. We'll play and see. So yeah, I like having a plan more for approximately what I have in mind, but I don't plan too far ahead. I first get it functional, and then we can refine from there. Right. So. What I can probably do is I can grab the same cylinder, not cylinder, circle, and that'll go into probably convert it to a line. No, curve. That would be curve from edges. Alright, so we're going to plop that into there. Hi, how are you? I'm good, thanks. Thank you for joining. Right, so we have this currently. Now, obviously, this is way too many segments for what we want to do. So what I'll actually be doing is group arrange. That one. That gets plopped into there. Go there, and obviously this selects everything. We don't want that. And we're not looking for primitives. We are looking for points. And then we can choose whether we do every second or third. I suspect we might do every fourth or sixth. What sixth give us? Six would give us funny. Look, so let's try 4. Yeah, let's do 4. And then now these will be the points we'll be copying to. So let's call it what? Copy pillars, why not? Now we do not currently have pillars, so we'll have to create those. In terms of what they'll look like, trying to think what would be a fun shape, because we can either do it with a line, like we do most things, or we could use a cylinder for that. A cylinder will be quicker in a way, more difficult to detail, technically speaking. So let's do... We've worked a lot with lines, why not let's work with a cylinder. Hello, Cameron, how have you been? What have you been up to today? I'm good, thanks. How are you? I am kind of building our 4th and possibly the final segment for this tower. Still have not figured out how to swap the different pieces out in a way that is not clunky, but I'm putting that problem on pause. So from there, I'll probably be starting on the next part of the environment, just till I've had the chance to actually play around with the segments and figure out a plan. But the second thing on the to-do list for today would be starting to build little houses. In terms of style, they probably don't quite fit in what we currently have, but I'll see if I can find a way to combine the different styles. Maybe I can make this slightly more ornate or something along those lines. We'll see. So that is the second things on today's to-do list. If we get further than that, I'll probably branch out even more, but that is the current setup, the current plan. We'll see how it goes from there. Yeah, but bottom line is we are creating kind of a pillar type of segment to the tower, which sort of like this. Now, again, this is the AI concept, but we're using it for inspiration, so I wouldn't even call it a concept. You can see the roof goes inside the pillars, which doesn't technically make any sense, so we're not going to be doing that. But that is the way it is in the concept, so to speak. We're deviating away from that. So we need a pillar. Now for the pillar, again, we'll do a cylinder. Why not? We'll do a cylinder. In terms of the number of segments, could probably start with the 16. We might reduce it at some point, but we'll see. Alright, now this is giant. Just template that. Yeah, that's giant. Let's do 0.25 grip. No, that's height. That one, 0.25. 1. 0.5 maybe? Because that is way too big. Yeah, let's do that. We might deviate away from that, but let's start off with a number. Again, it is Houdini, and Houdini is brilliant, so we can change our minds at a later stage. At this stage, I mean, it does the job. Is it too big still? Possibly. But we're gonna work with it. Right. So I can add in caps here, but I don't like to do that because I don't automatically get a group from it, and groups are everything. So due to that, instead of using the end caps there, I'm going to use what it's called. Is patch? I think it's patch. Poly patch. And that gets plopped into there. It's not poly patch. It is... Can it be polyfill? Poly something. It's polyfill. I think. That gets plopped into there, that goes into there. Brilliant. Now this topology is questionably bad, so we're not going to be doing that. We are going to be a triangle fan. Why not? And then I want groups of that. So we're going to do a patch group, and then we can do a poly extrude. Extrude. Which one will that be? There we go. That gets blocked into there, that goes into there, and nothing happens. Of course. So, first things first, we need to specify we want patch, and then we can increase the distance. Brilliant. Now, we don't quite want just that, so we'll be probably tapering these out a little bit. And we're going to do what else? Increase the number of divisions. Can I do this curved? Curve for second input. I can play with that. Possibly. I can also twist it, but I don't think we'll be twisting it. Trying to think what would be the prettiest. Because I don't quite like the fact that this is completely straight. What if we reduce that, do a second extrude, and the second extrude will taper even more? Could in theory work. Let's try it. Let me think. Let's do output front. I think it's front. Let's do that. And then we do another poly extrude. Just to get a little bit of a different shape, because I don't want it to go just straight out. That's very boring. Alright, brilliant. Then we are going to specify we want extrude front. And then if we increase the distance, we get that. Which is fine. Still pretty boring though. I'm not so sure I like that actually. Let's view it from the front. We could do that and then do like a straight piece going up from that. Potentially. That's slightly better. I think we're going to do that. Now, we've technically got a lot of groups on top of each other now because I'm also wanting the extrude front again, so, or that group. So, due to that, I'm quickly going to change a setting, which is preserve groups. We do not want to preserve groups, which will basically delete the previous extrude front group, so to speak. And then we can do another poly extrude. Now, this is one of the reasons I mentioned we might want to use a line. If we just have a little bit more leeway for quicker alterations. But because I use it so much, I wanted to show a different method, so to speak. Is it a complicated method? No, but it's different. So, there's that. Curve does nothing, so let's just keep that at that. That goes up there. Such a boring shape though. Can't we do something to it? let's do, I think it's called knife. And then we, not distance, is it distance? I'm trying to, let's do 0 for now. Where is it not moving? I'm seeing the circle, that's what I'm seeing. Am I viewing it? Yes, I'm viewing it. Why is it not doing anything? We'll see in a moment why it's not doing anything. 0 that again. Loop lines around it and sweep. That is an option as well. We could do that. We could do that. Choices. What I'm also going to be doing is something that I did on the lantern, which I worked on previously, which was, probably would want to add that detail before though. Choices. What we can do, let's do that first. In terms of, right, let's do, can we just do a convert? Probably won't work because we don't want all the lines, we just want the horizontal lines. So, what I could probably do, can I, what happens if I can't select a group? That's annoying. Can I do a line group? Let's see, shoot find. No, I cannot. That's so annoying. It would be very convenient if I could just do that. What are we gonna do? Right, let's pause that plan for a second. Right, so what we were actually doing for a while, let's think. Okay, group arrange. We're gonna do a group arrange and then I'll reset my brain for a different operation. So, group arrange, that goes into there, that goes into there, and then we want that. I don't actually want to, I want to reverse of this. So, can I do the sides? And the next question is, would the sides build upon each other? Probably not, because I've got to preserve groups turned off at some point. Not group name, base group. Yeah, no, that's not gonna work. Well, that was a nice fort while it lasted. Right. I'm gonna keep that as it is for now. We can always cut the top and the bottom if it really bothers me. So, let's do that. That goes into there, that goes into there, we're good. And then we're going to do a poly extrude. Not draw, poly extrude. It could potentially be the group. Why have I broken you? Chemical review. Just give you a name. Brilliant. There we go. That goes into there. That goes into there. Alright. That adds something. I'm not sure whether it's a good something. But it is a something. I don't actually want it extruding the tops and the bottoms though, because that's very ugly. Let's So what we could probably do is I'm gonna create a group of the original cylinder. Can we do that? We can probably do that. Let's do. It's going to be a group of a group, but anyway, it's a group, not group arranged. That's just going to be a standard group. If I press tab, that would have been very useful. Now, which key do I do to get rid of that? It's not that one. It's not that one. It's not all. Right. Don't know how to get rid of that one, but we're just gonna plop it out off to the side for a second here. Right, so. Got that boost. We don't actually need that boost. We want a group. Do a group, and that group is going to be determined by. How do I do my normals? That direction and that direction, and well, that's inconvenient. Well, that will give us the top and the bottom, but I don't actually want those areas. Can we do bounding region? Would probably be easier. Probably. Right. Let's do that. In terms of the center, we probably want to copy that parameter. Now we're just going to manually move it. So I don't plan to change this pillar too much, that's fine. Let's do 6, 5 something. Let's do 5. And then in terms of scale, let's do 7, 5. Right. Now, let's see. I don't technically want this to go and grab those as well. So let's just remove that portion. And we could probably do that. And then we'll have to increase the size a little bit. Come to think of it, why is it not selecting? Okay, there we go. That gives us that. We want maybe 9.5. Let's try that 1. Right, brilliant. And that is going to be group for the group range. So we'll do. We're just gonna call it group range. Will I regret it? Probably, but we're not gonna worry too much about it. So that is going to be group range. There we go. And then instead of group going outwards, we're probably going to go inwards. Because if we go outwards, we're going to get this ugly mess. So, let's do inwards. Brilliant. In terms of adding sweeps, what we're probably going to be doing is, where is this? That bit? No, let's go up a bit. Right, what we're probably going to do is convert to edges, curve to curve, something along those lines. In terms of this extrude, if we grab that extrude front and we convert, we'd probably have to do is dissolve first. So let's do a dissolve. And that's specifically going to be extrude front. No. We'd first have to blast chaotic stream again. I think my Tuesday streams are always more chaotic than my Friday ones. So we want to grab extrude front, and I want to delete non-selected. Then I can dissolve, not dissolve. That would be. It isn't dissolve, isn't it? Dissolve flat faces or something. Flat edges. There we go. And I've lost my voice. Speed them either way. Okay. I completely lost my voice. That is highly unpleasant. I'm sorry. Okay. We'll see whether that works. Okay. Got that. Right. Voice is back. We're good to go. We will do a sweep. And that is going to go into there. And then we get round. Oh, not specified group. But that does give an interesting. That does give an interesting result. No, but why? There's nothing there. Why are you giving me weirdness? Are we gonna give it a name? Let's give it a name. Ooh, we do not want that. Oh wait, that's it's not gonna give a name. Let's see. Sweep. Cross section. No, we don't want the cross section. We want the curve. I think what we're probably going to do is the scale thing, maybe. It's scale. That is the problem. And the next problem is our, what do you call it? Our line is probably not, what would you call it? Merged. So what we can probably do is, can we do a poly something? Polypath? Could be a polypath. There we go. Probably don't need that then. Yeah. So that, and then obviously we can adjust from here, but let's start with that and just see what we've got. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Now we're basically going to copy and paste this network for all of them. So that'll be that one. Can we merge it and then? Probably not. Probably not. Let's duplicate this network. And then that one goes in instead. And that goes merged. Brilliant. And then I actually also want it from the top and the bottom. So what I'm going to do, this network is getting relatively large, is I'm actually going to grab the one from the patch as well. So that's going to get plopped into there, and then we are going to take the polyfill and then grab the patch rather than the extrude front. And that'll be merged as well. Now I might play around with the scale on these, but for now this is functional. In terms of the last one, we could probably grab one stop, so that's also going to be extrude front. Actually going to plop it in between here because this one is the only one that is grabbing from something other than the extrude, so I want that to be at the end. And then we want that extrude to go to there, that sweep to go to there. Brilliant. We've got a much more interesting pillar now. So thank you for that, by the way. It was a good suggestion. So I think I want to shrink this one down. So that is going to be, which one? Is it this one? Possibly, but we want really low value. We want it bigger. We do not want it bigger. Right, let's see, maybe something like that. And I want to shrink that one down as well. So that is going to be the first extrude, I believe. not columns. Radius. Maybe something like that. Now technically we'd probably have to boolean these together, but for now this is functional. So now we can at this point do a copy to points. Let's do that, and that is going to be this one, and that's going to target points, and then this is going to get plopped into there. Brilliant. And we are going to specify group. So source group is going to be, it's not going to be group range, target points actually. So that is going to be this, I believe. Brilliant. That is functional. That is functional. Do you think these pillars are maybe too short? They are maybe too short. Is this the right place to place the transform? Probably not, but we're gonna do it because, as I said, functional first, then we can worry about the rest. We'd probably want to center this in the world first, actually. So let's do a match size. Alright, now this is at the center, but we technically actually want it on the ground, so to speak. So that gets copied, and then if we transform it, it should behave marginally better. I actually think this should be bigger in general. But not necessarily. Let's go 0.2. Okay, but I didn't want to scale at this point because that's going to create everything wonkiness. So okay, right. See what we can do here. So technically we want this to be shorter but bigger. Maybe. Yeah, that's better. Right, so in terms of this chaotic mess of a network, what have we actually got here? We have, at this stage, nothing. So this would get plopped into the merge. And if we switch... where is our fence thing going? Alright, so that does that. Let's quickly see. This also needs to be a 1. And that also needs to be a 1. Alright, brilliant. In terms of why it's disappearing, we'll find out in a second. Match size is determined by that. We don't want that, so we're actually going to get rid of the match size because we do want it at the origin. So my suspicion is as follows. It's probably at the switch because we've actually eliminated the switch because we haven't got a null that determines the controls for it. So we can probably steal one. Let's steal one. Right. That gets plopped into there, and we're actually going to remove the roof style. So that one will be deleted. Right, now this is still not functional because this null has a different name. I should have actually done my naming before copying, pasting these around. I have not, however, so we're gonna run with it. So that is going to be paste relative reference. Now, if I switch between these, if I view it first, if I switch between these should appear and disappear. And that is brilliant. Right. Now, in regards to placement of the segment, we'd probably want this at the top. Which means the scale is technically incorrect because the top is smaller than 1. 1 being the diameter of the circle would be 1, and then the top is obviously less than that. Unless we place them in the middle. Place it in the middle. me not template this and actually view the whole thing. Yeah, no, we're not going to do that. We are going to place it at the top. Why not? So instead of having a little roof copy and paste here, what we're probably going to be doing is grab this one. Right. Is that too small though? Because that looks teeny. Merge. I mean, it's not horrible. But we'd want to scale that down a little bit. Right. So I actually think what we're going to be doing is firstly going into here and deleting the irrelevant part. No, that is the roof. That is the roof. Leave the roof. It's going to be this network. I'm going to move it closer. Will I regret it? Probably, because now my segments are no longer together, but we're running with it. Right, so we do have the option with rating, without rating, that is a-okay, but the second one I want is actually scale. So let us do, it's not going to be integer, it's actually going to be float, so that is going to be scale. And if I haven't got caps lock on, that would be preferable. It's going to be scale and it's going to be float, and that is all well and good. And I did not save that, so let's do scale. Right, apply. Now this will do nothing as it is, so we're quickly going to copy that parameter and jump into this. And I actually think what we're going to be doing is grabbing that to go into there, because it is the same. It's not the same. Right, we're just going to do a double copy. That's fine. Is it preferable? No, but it is something. So that's going to be, wasn't diameter, it was radius. So that goes paste relative reference and the same for this. That gets plopped into there, and is there any other circles in here? No. Right. Now, as you'll see, everything disappeared. Do not worry, it's just because we haven't specified a scale. So if we put that at 1, we'll be back to where we started. I suspect it will probably be something like 0.8 or something. Why aren't those scaling accordingly? Got another circle somewhere. We've got another circle somewhere. Let's jump back in. Over here. Paste, and we should be good to go. Brilliant. Right, now technically we would want the roof to be on top of this now. Now here's why I'm not happy with the tower as it currently is. I don't like that it takes all of these nodes to determine placement. And it's very cluttered and I'm not very happy about it. So yes, I will be changing that basically as soon as I get a chance to. So yeah, and we're going to do match size. And then that is going to go into, should be matched, yes. And then that is going there. And then we are going, is it max and min or is it minimax? I never know. It's minimax. Brilliant. And then we do another merge. Now, we're breaking a very important rule here. And that is that you should never, I repeat, never work in even numbers. So we technically need another segment. However, we do not have another segment at this stage, so we're gonna run with it. I'm not happy with the roof scale though. Where's scale determined? Is it match with off then? Can I make it wider? I do not have something for scale there. That is a problem. Alright, so then we'll have to scale this one to be smaller. Right. I mean, it's not horrible. It's just not ideal. Not horrible, not ideal. But we'll work with it. Yeah. I think if we added like a little more detail to this roof, maybe did something similar to what we did for the east with the sweeps, it'll look prettier. Ooh, I know what we're gonna do. I know what we're gonna do. Going to down to, why am I doing a reverse? Just quickly frame this. When I can do it in here. Right. One less node to deal with. What I actually wanted to do is a group arrange. If I can actually spell. Group. Am I really going to have to type this out? I think so. Group arrange. There we go. And then we're basically going to do the same thing that we did with the pillar, except we're going to extrude outwards. So do we want that? Probably. Yeah, let's do that. And then I'm not gonna name it right now. Will I regret this? Yes, yes I will. We're going for efficiency. Yeah. So that is going to be group 1. Extrude. Oh, that is awful at the top. We zoom out, we cannot see it. If we zoom out, we cannot see it. Let's do it not inset. That is awful though. That is absolutely awful. Let's do let's do what? Let's quickly adjust the shape and not have it coming to so sharp point. Don't want to template that, actually want to jump into that network. Now see, that's better. Is it perfect? No, but it's better. Alright, and then we can do a bevel, because otherwise it's going to be very ugly. So let's do a poly bevel. I probably could have just typed bevel and I would have been good to go, but anyway. Right, obviously this is beveling everything, which is also not quite what we want, so I would want to ignore flat edges. And then maybe that many. Yeah, let's do that. Now that's more interesting. So that's the one part I wanted to do. The second part is I wanted to add some like bottom to the group. That's going to be slightly problematic because we're not doing this with a circle. Let's see what we're working with. So that's going to be revolved, and it actually creates a. I could get an in-grab a cap group. That is absolutely brilliant. Although that'll give me the top and the bottom. Well, I mean, let's do the top and the bottom. Why not? And then we'll sweep. And actually blast. So that'll be blast. That'll go into there. We'll specify we want end caps. And the delete on selected. And we can probably sweep around to what's going on here. Probably need something along the normal line, oriental curve maybe. Yes, brilliant. Alright, now why is that template? Do not want to template that, so that can go. And then in terms of scaling, can we actually resample it first, because I don't quite like how with subdivision. Sweep and both. Yeah. I might regret it. But we're gonna start off with that. Why did you destroy the top though? Why? Probably the type of resample I did. Let's do that. That's better. Sweep. And merge. I might change my mind about sweeping them both, but for now, that is awful. For now, that is awful. I do not have anything else to say about it. Right, so we could scale it a little bit because it is technically too small on the bottom as well. So let's scale it to transform on that. Plop that into there, and then we can not scale it in that direction. Let's do 0.2. No, 0.1. Yeah, let's do 0.1. I'm probably going to have to remove the resample. That is awful. Right, 0.5. Possibly. And then we can, in theory, increase the size of the profile, and that should, in theory, fix it. Let's do about that much. And then we would technically want to copy something to the top. In theory. So let's jump back in there. What are we going to copy to the top? It's either we copy something to the top or we actually remove the top end cap, which is probably the preferable option because I don't actually like what the sweep is doing, and it's going to be a lot of extra work to add a little thing on top, which I'm not sure if I want actually. Let's see. Okay, so we've got the blast, which is fine. We can do another blast. Can we do, and let's do a group first. And then we can probably select by normals because their normals are technically in the opposite direction. In theory, so let's do, there we go. And we can blast that. Blast that. That goes into there. And then delete non-selected group 1, I think. That one actually. So we can remove the resample and then just going to move these down a little bit. And that goes into there. Brilliant. Merge that. That works. We've no longer got a weird thing on top. Up with that. Brilliant. Brilliant. Do we want something at the top eventually? Yes, probably, but for now we're going to leave it as that. Right, so I've just realized an hour has flown by, so we're going to pivot to the next part of today. We will be revisiting the tower as soon as I've figured out how to do the thing I do not know how to do. And then I'll figure it out on my own, and then which probably won't be before Friday because this week's crazy. But as soon as I have time to figure it out, I'll figure it out off stream, and then once I stream again, I'll go into detail of how I fixed it and how I wouldn't say created the solution, but how I figured it out, basically. So that is that in terms of a tower. Is it perfect again? No, but it is functional and it's sort of what I have in mind. So we're actually going to jump out, delete tower 1 and segment test because I don't need them anymore. And then we are going to create a house. So let's do house. No, I need geometry actually. I'm gonna call the geometry house, but I didn't. Alright. We've got that sorted. And then if I can spell. Right, brilliant. We've got a house. Now, some parts of this network I'll actually reuse. So let me, predominantly the Boolean. So let me actually copy that and plop that into there. I'm one of those people that the second I start talking about whatever, for example, if I say house, I'm going to be typing house even if I actually want geometry. It's just one of those things. Maybe if I talk less, I'll have less problems. So, what we're actually going to do is, maybe, do we want to ghost other objects? Hide other objects maybe? Let's hide them. Right, so for those of that have been joining later, this is sort of what we're going for in terms of houses. So what we already have is we already have a Boolean for the archway, which is brilliant. We technically already have a door as well that we could steal from the tower. And then for the rest, relatively straightforward. So what we'll be doing is first creating a cube. Between cubes, lines, and cylinders, I barely use anything else, so there's that. Right, so the first thing is I want this to be centered. I'm actually going to copy. Am I going to copy that parameter? Am I going to do a transform separately? Let's copy the height actually, and piece relative reference and times that by 0.5. Could I use a match size? Yes. Yes, I could. In this case, I'm not going to, however. So in terms of height, we're probably going to want, let's template that, and wireframe ghost. Let's think. Probably going to be closer to 1.525. Let's do 1.25. In terms of the overall scale, this will be something we'll be able to edit, but we'll start off with 2, I think. And in terms of width, we'll probably do either 2 or 2.5 maybe. Let's do 2.5. Right, we've got that. Now, I'm actually going to remove the ghost for now. Do flat shaded. We technically want to move this Boolean forwards, so we are probably going to do a match size. Do a match size. That gets plopped into there, that goes into there, and then for view that, we get that. So we want it to move forward. So that is going to be Z. And we want technically more than that. Can we do? What happens if we do min-max? Yeah, and then we can just plop that into there. Alright. Now we also wanted to go to the side a little bit, because if we look at our reference, this is not actually centered. Unless we go for the second. No, we're going to focus for half a second. We're going to focus for half a second. And do something like min and just offset it a little bit. Or alternatively, just so much easier when everything is centered. I think how we're going to approach this, because I technically want to do a copy and transform. So to do that and have it, well, I don't have to. I can just mirror it. Are we gonna mirror it? Yeah, let's mirror it. Let's do a mirror. The only downside to the mirror is I cannot randomly decide I want 3 doors instead of 1. Unless I implement a switch at this point. Let's do that. Let's do switch. And then that goes into there. Option A has 2 windows and option B has 1. Alright. Brilliant. And then what we also want is this going to get Boolean. So let's do Boolean. We'll probably add windows as well. Will we? Eventually. Not right now. So that gets plopped into there. That's probably going to be geometry. Well, we can flip it around. Let's do that. Just geometry. A, B, and this is going to be that way around. Right, now I don't like that this archway is pointy. So we're actually going to change the shape. So that is going to be in the attribute box. It's actually very difficult to get rid of the pointiness on something like this. Just due to the way it's designed, so to speak. So we're not gonna eliminate it completely, but we'll improve it. What if we actually do a resample on this? We can fix that. We do a resample, but that's for the mirror. Can we resample after the mirror? After the join, maybe. Yeah, that's better. We do want to right. Do maximum segments. No. See. Yeah, that's not what we want. That's not going to give us what we want. Right, okay. So it will have to be before the join, which is highly inconvenient because unless we do a sweep instead. Not a sweep, fuse. Do a fuse, see if that helps. Fuse. Near points. Resample. There are no points on top of each other, I think. Let's see. Yeah, that is fine, but it's just not doing what I want it to do. It's not doing what I want it to do. The alternative to this would be using half of a what? Half of a cylinder and extruding down. Half of a circle. We could do that instead. But let me just quickly check because we did have an arch that was somewhat decent in the tower. It was in the 3rd segment, and that was this one somewhere. No, it was the 3rd segment, so it's actually this one. It's going to be this one. Right, let's actually grab that one and jump back in here. Plop that into there, and that goes into there. Now the orientation on this is technically wrong, I think. Yep, it was a resample. Before the join, I just used a different value, it seems. Yeah, I used maximum segments instead. Why did you break? Let's do delete channels. And we are going to do Bezier. Why aren't you Bezier? Alright, brilliant. And then must have been a very specific shape along with being a bezier. Um, see what we can do. Why am I making this difficult? I can copy that parameter. Let's go back, tower, and then the reason it's not working as it should is because I have a control point at the bottom, most likely, that has, yeah, it has this. So what I'm actually going to do is copy that parameter, pop into here, into there, and then paste the values. There we go. Query sample. And we are sorted. Right. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. So we've got that working. And then let's see what the Boolean is doing. Much better. Much, much, much better. Right, so do we want this at the back as well? Possibly. But we might, instead of, might do what? Right. I think what we'll do is maybe for the back we'll have it the same network but different, so that we can also choose whether we have one or two doors at the back. And or maybe for the back we only have one door but in the center. Let's do that. Let's do that. So that is also going to be a match size, but instead of going sideways, we are going to leave that centered. We actually want the reverse of this, so that's going to be maximum. And then go that way. And then we're probably going to do a merge. That gets merged with that, that goes into there, that goes into there, so that we can boolean everything together at the same point. Brilliant. But that's not actually centered though. Zero that out. Alright, now we also need stairs, probably. But I don't know whether I want to do that right now. Probably not. Right, in terms of scale, I actually want a bigger door. So let's create a bigger door. And that goes up. There we go. And then we'll have to adjust our values a little bit at the match size so that we're still evenly spaced. Brilliant. Okay, we've got that. Unless we want it to be slightly wider at the sides, we could do that. But then it's too big. Alright, we'll leave it at that for now. And then in terms of the back, no, we're gonna leave it like that for now. Right, so the next thing we need is technically stairs. Right, let's do the stairs. So for the stairs, the easiest is probably going to be 3 cubes on top of each other. Most likely. Right, so cube. And we're most likely going to do it with a match size or something. Not a match size, a copy and transform. We will also be using a match size, but that is not the main goal. So that gets plopped into there, that goes into there, and then this will be, let's do, it's not going to be X, it's going to be, Y is going to be flat, and then this is going to be, I'll talk about both sides, but let's focus on the front for now. So we're going to do that. And then in terms of scaling, we want it to be 0.05 maybe? 0.1, is that too thick? Yeah, let's do 0.05. It's not gonna fit 3 stairs. Okay, we'll leave it at 0.5. Right, then we want this to be not no 0.3. Remove the template. Right. Well, I'll worry about the width in a moment. What I want to check, however, is the 3 going to fit on top of each other? Probably only 2. Copy, transform. We are going to go in the scale. So that is height, that is width, I think. So let's copy that one. Copy parameter, paste preference, and then we want to scale. Please scale from the right place. No, that's right. It's gonna do that. I don't want it to do that. Why does it move back when I scale it? Pivot, isn't it? It is the pivot because we're not technically at the world origin here. What if we did the copy and transform before the match size? Let's do that. And then what we're also going to be doing is this size is going to be centered, and that's going to be zeroed. Right, will that help? Yes, yes it will. Right, brilliant. In terms of how much, probably why is that distance not increasing? I would have hoped it would multiply across, but it doesn't. Okay. But I think we'll only have space for 2 in any case, so it should be fine. Brilliant. Now, the problem with this as it is it's physically centered, which we don't want. So I'm wondering if we should implement this before this, or also have a switch for this, so you can choose whether you only have stairs for the one or the other. So we'll probably do that, and then in terms of the side, we'd probably want this to go. This is on the Y, no, it is on the X, and that'll be min plus a little bit. That'll overlap though. Yeah, that's fine. Right, and then in terms of the switch, we're going to choose between this and mirrored. Merge. Okay, then we do the switch. That goes into there, that goes into there. Brilliant. And then we can merge it all together. So that gets merged. Gets plopped into there, that goes into there, and there we go. Now, we've got that. The only part we do not have, don't actually like that it's creating a template. Let's remove that. I firstly don't like that these two are overlapping, but we're going to ignore the bad topology for half a second and create the same stair for the back, because the back does not currently have stairs. Now this is technically wider than the doorway though. I think what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to scale the width. Now obviously that does not line up for now, but we'll deal with that in a second. So let's do that. Now there's a gap in the center for these, but I'm actually, maybe that doesn't bother me. Maybe it in fact does bother me, so we'll do, maybe, can we do like a merge? Keep original. Okay. There we go. Brilliant. Okay, so we want basically the same stairs, but for the back. So I'm going to grab these. Except the only difference is we're not doing a mirror, and our match size will be a little bit different because it will be centered. So that goes into there. And for this one, we actually want this to be zeroed. And center. And we want this to be max and min. And that's facing the wrong way. So, what we can do is, do I want to reverse all of this? It's going to be work. But okay. We do have this facing the wrong way though, so we're just going to do a reverse. Keep it simple. Right, there we go. That goes into there, that goes into there, and then this can also merge. Brilliant. Okay, so for the back, we also want maybe a window. Maybe a window. We can also potentially have the option to switch, instead of switching between, where can you see it? Probably at the Boolean point. Over here. Not going to tempt it, actually going to view it. But if we switch between these, instead of having it switch to nothing, we can switch to something like this, where it has the same archway, but just slightly smaller. I think we're going to do that. Because what do you do with all this empty space? You've got to have something. So, let's see what we can do about that. It's basically going to be the same thing up until this point. Except we can grab it from the mirror point. So everything up until the mirror. So that's going to be that one, that one, that one, and not the Boolean. Don't think we need the Boolean. And then in terms of this archway, we're actually going to make it smaller. So it's going to be technically narrower, but also, can I do that? No, but okay, we'll just scale on the height, it's fine. Let's just scale on the height, so that is going to be a transform. So that, transform, plop that into there, and then we are going to scale on the height. Do something like that, and then in terms of the match size, that goes the wrong direction now, so we are going to mirror it, and then we are going to not keep the original. Right, so that gets merged into there. Actually, not there. Into the switch. And then we can cancel that out. And then we have... See, I don't want that though. I need the door still. So what we're actually going to do is merge first. So that we can merge that and this, and that would go to there, I suspect. Let's see. Yep. Right, now in terms of the match size, I want this to be the same height as the top of that. So what we're going to be doing is just lifting it up a little bit to view it from the front. In terms of scale, I'm not completely sure whether I like the scale, but we'll see. And maybe we want it more to the left. More like that, maybe. And then let's view it. Let's get to perspective. Right, not bad. And obviously if this switches, we'd have to get rid of the one chair, the one stay as well. Brilliant. Right, now we can probably utilize the same window on this side, but I'm a little bit worried that it's too big. It might be too big, but we'll see. We'll see. So, what we're going to be doing is using the same network, except we also wanted to boolean there though. Just quickly check. That is the stairs, so that is not what we want. We want this one. So that is that. And then basically going to copy these. Alright. But instead of the match size going to the front, we want the back. So that is going to be the res min max. Let's quickly template these so I can see roughly where it needs to be. And that is going to go to the back. Brilliant. Now that is not functional. So if we just quickly... This one I can template. Yeah, let's template that one. And then what I'm going to be doing is we're going to change the direction there. And for this one, I'm going to have the option to have two windows versus one. Right. So now we can switch between two or just one. We can technically not choose. Well, now we can choose whether we want both just on one side or on the other. Brilliant. So that gets merged into a boolean. This one. Right. We have liftoff. We've got options now. So I think I'm going to build a control for this. And this will allow us to edit a lot of things. We can basically choose what door we want or how many doors we want. We can choose the amount of windows. We can play around a little bit. So let me quickly think. We need one for the number of doors for the front, and then we need a control for the number of windows in the back. Is that it? Which I only need two. Brilliant. Okay. We only need two. So that is going to be a null. And we're going to call it control. Alright, so that goes into there. We're going to make it red. And then edit parameter interface. Now in this case, it's all going to be integer. So both is going, not that integer though. Just delete that. Delete parameters. This one. Right. So number of doors. And that is going to be. We can also have the option for no doors. We can do that. So we will have it between the range of 0 and 3. 0 and 2. 0, 1, 2. Yeah, we'll have 0. Or we can do, yeah, let's do 0 to 2. That should be fine. Right. Now, that is going to be doors. And then that's going to be doors for the front. So that should technically be doors. Right. Obviously this may rotate, but we'll work with it if it does. And then door. Back. Door back. Brilliant. Right. Now, this one will be technically between 0 and 1. Right. Next one is going to be windows. For the front window, we technically will be determined by the door. So we're not going to add a separate one for that. Right, apply, accept, all well and good. Now, for the doors front, we're going to copy that parameter, and that is going to get pasted into here. Alright. That same value will be pasted into this, not that switch. Where is it? Is it this one? It's this one. Right, now let me just double check whether it adjusts accordingly. Yep, and that is a-okay. Then we want the door back. So that is going to be, just quickly check where the door from the back is coming from. I believe it's this one. No. I need to start labeling. Okay, so that's that one, and the other one is going to be a null. And then we add a switch here. That goes into there, that goes into there, that goes into there. And then that goes pasted. Alright, now if we check here, right. We technically want the reverse of this. We want 0 to be 0 doors. So what I'll be doing is flipping these around. Can I do that? Input 1, input 2. Brilliant. So if we quickly look at that, that will be perfect. Right, so Windows back is going to be these. Now we technically want the same thing, where the null is number 1. So let's do, the null is going to be number 1. Number 2 is going to be one side. We just quickly remove references there for a second so I can have an easier time of this. So we want technically that to be number 2, that should be number 3, and that should be number 4. 1. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3. Brilliant. Okay, so we'll probably have to have a cap on that. That is 0, 1, 2, 3. So that's going to be, okay. Got it, got it, got it. Quickly going to edit this one, and that's going to be Windows back, and that's going to be capped at 3. Set. I believe. That gets blocked there. Paste relative references. Right, so that goes there, and then if we pop between these, we've got the different ones. Brilliant. So let's actually view that. So if we want a door in the back, we can add a door in the back. If we want those, we can add those. Brilliant. And for the front, we can basically switch between these two. Which is not a lot, but it is something. I don't think I want to switch more on that. It overcomplicates matters. Maybe this will actually be the front because I've got a lot more I can edit here. But we'll see. Right, so that is the bottom floor. We do not have anything on the side though. That is a problem. Because maybe, can we add a taper to the overall? We could add a taper, but at a later point because it's still too flat. So if we add a taper now, it's going to make everything slightly odd. If we add a taper, let's do that one, and then do something front. Set capture region. Take that from there to there. And then we do that. Actually, it's not terrible. So maybe can I have like the option to the depth of the booleans. So we'll be adding a bevel to them because they're pretty. They're pretty, what do you call it? Rigid. Well, it depends on what you want, right? So in the terms of my reference, it's pretty flat. In terms of whether that's the correct approach, I don't know. Maybe we can add a taper at some point. At this stage, I wouldn't want to because I'm just trying to get a base down. But at a later stage, yes, we can look at a taper. Right. So what I wanted to do is a bevel. Why did I add a boolean? Right. So we're going to ignore flat edges. For the most part. For the most part, I believe it's this one that's going a bit wonky. There we go. And we can do round and maybe 2 segments. Maybe 1, 5. Let's do smooth shaded. There's a template somewhere. Over here. Not terrible. We probably want to adjust the normals on this, but let's do that because this is not giving me a full picture. Let's do normal. There we go. I think. Yeah, much better. Right. Okay, that was a side note. We're not fixed on that for now. Next thing we can add is potentially windows on the sides. So let's do that. Now, there's a very high likelihood that the sides won't be visible, depending on where and how I arrange the what? The overall environment. Because obviously if two houses are next to each other, you cannot see the windows. So, the thickness is more visible that way. That is true. That is true. It will be more visible. In terms of if you have bezels and so on and so forth, it's not necessarily a requirement. You can still do it. But we'll be adding a door as well, so I'm not too concerned at the moment, but that is a later problem. Right, so windows on the sides. We can also look at adding the doors in. Probably do that. Which one first? Which one first? Probably let's do the windows first. So. We also have to do some organization because this is utter chaos. But windows are currently small. Do we want bigger windows? Probably not. Let's keep it like that. Let's keep it simple. So we are going to grab these. For this match size, I'm firstly just going to zero everything out. Actually, I'm going to use a new match size just so I don't have a cluttered mess that I need to clean up first. It's actually going to be quicker to add the match size. Geometry to move and resize, that's that one, and then for this guy, we want the box. Now, the orientation is incorrect, so we would technically fit this, so let's do a transform, and I believe we'll be rotating by 90 degrees, so let's do that. Will I be adding size options for the windows? Potentially yes, but I'll have to think about how to do that, because if I adjust the size as it is currently with its placement, it's going to go higher than the doorway. Actually view that so we can see what I mean. Let's do polygonal, normal, all of that, right. So as it is currently, if I scale this window, it will go higher than the door, which I don't really want. So we'll see how we can combat that. We can actually test it. Let's test it. That is this one. Now a lot will depend on where I do the transform. If I do it at this stage, it does that, which is not ideal. If I do it at, let's just copy that one. No, not like that. Copy it. If we put it at this level and scale it, it's better, but it still messes with the placement. But again, if you want to, I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not an ideal by any means. But yeah, bottom line is we could add that. we could also add that it scales in the width, but the problem is then it goes kind of to the side, just due to how it's placed. But again, up to personal preference. We could add a separate control that controls the placement, so that if we wanted to, let's say you've scaled it and you're not happy with the placement, we could add a separate control to then adjust the placement to your heart's content, basically. And you can adjust how you want it to accommodate for the new scale. That is no option. Please don't get off track, I'm just wondering. I know I'm very good at getting sidetracked. It's half the fun anyway, because it gives me new ideas and extra things to think about, which is never wrong. Right. So, we've got our boolean over here. Get rotated. And then we will go and boolean this at some point. But first, let's fix it in the match size. So that is going to be offset on the x-axis. So that's going to be to max and min. And then go slightly inwards. Right, now, in terms of placement, how much control do I want to have? That's always the question. How much do I want to be able to edit? Because I could move this off to the side and just do a mirror, or I could take it off to the side and have a copy and transform. The upside of a copy and transform is I can adjust the number of copies. But again, how much control do I want to have? Because what I could do is, again, add the parameters within a control, so have the ability to change number of copies as well as placement. But that might get too complex. But it's fun, so let's actually do that. Let's do that. Why not? Let's have fun. So that's going to be copy and transform. Brilliant. So that gets plopped into there, that goes into there, and we actually want this to be off to the side. So that is going to be on the z-axis. So that's going to be minimum, and then we would probably want it to be at least that much inwards. Probably a little bit more, because as you can see, we've got a slight bit of intersection there. So let's do that, and then this will get copied and transformed in, not that way, this way. Right, and then you can choose to have either 3 copies or whatever. So then in the control, I would basically say number of copies as well as placement. And if you wanted to, you could also affect the height, and you can have them move up, because that could be fun, especially if you have 2 copies and you translate it further out and then just the height. That could be fun. But right, I'm getting sidetracked again. So we are going to leave it at 3 copies for now. The rest will be implemented with the control. So what we'll probably actually have an option for 0. Okay, so in terms of where we're booleaning this together, it's probably going to go into this merge as well. Alright, and instead of doing these controls with the switches, we're probably going to do them with the copy and transform. So that's all well and good. And I'm basically going to have an identical network for the left side. Yeah, let's do that. So going to copy and paste those, and then instead of doing the min max, we're going to do a reverse. So that's going to be, well, instead of doing max and min, we're going to do min and max. right, and then that is going to be minus 0.25. Now the reason I'm not mirroring this across is because I want the ability to edit them independently. When you duplicate it horizontally, will this work? I've lost the train of thought there. When I duplicate it horizontally. You mean like that? If I duplicate that to across that, it'll technically work, but not in the way I want it to, due to the fact that I want to be able to place them independently. Have one window, well, maybe 3 windows on one side, but only 2 on the other, or whatever. Something along those lines. Now, am I overcomplicating this? Probably. I'm probably overcomplicating it, but I mean, it's fun. I don't have another reason for it. I enjoy overcomplicated things. I'm actually going to switch back to flat wire shaded just so I don't have to be worried about wonky normals in the middle of my network. We'll fix the rest of the things at a later stage. Alright. Now, I don't like that these windows are a different height. I don't like that at all. It's fine for this side, but I don't like that. But we did talk about implementing a control which controls the scale and placement of those in any case. So is it a problem? Probably not. Probably not. So let's focus for half a second and focus on the side windows. And let's edit parameter interface, and I'm actually going to add, what is it called? I think. What is it called? It's not a file. Folder. We're implementing a folder. And this is going to be front. So everything related to the front is going to get plopped into there. And then we're going to add a folder for back. It's going to be back. And this is everything related to the back. Now, for the moment, it seems like front is irrelevant, but it's actually not, because if we add separate controls for the windows themselves, it'll get cluttered very quickly. So I'm actually, yeah, let's leave it at doors front. Why not? Now obviously there will be a label saying that it's front, but yeah, whatever. We'll keep it at that. And then we will do left. I'm going to have to keep my direction in mind a lot, but anyway, we'll do left and right. I'm better with this way and that way than I am with left and right, but we'll deal with it. Right, so that's going to be alright, and I actually don't want this to be within the folder. There we go. So it's going to be left and right, and then in terms of the rest, we need integers. So that is going to be number of windows. And then placement, that's going to be placement, right? And then we can do height, placement height, and then we also want scale. So for scale, I'm probably going to have 2 because I want to be scaling in the width and the height. So let's do that. So this will be scale. Let's say window scale. Now this is the label that no one sees, so that's fine. And then this is just going to be scale. And then this is going to be placement height. Height, placement height. I probably also need to specify that this is again the right side, because if I add these same test settings to the left side, I've got a problem. So let's do that. Now this gets a bit, I wouldn't say complicated, but it gets a bit, a lot of admin to keep track of, and it takes time to add these controls. Do I need this level of editability? Probably not, but I do want to have it because it's fun. It's fun to have this level of control. But beyond it actually being fun, I do want the ability to create a large amount of variety within my environment. If you want just some variety, you can get away with a lot less. But because I want to edit a lot of things, it's better to have more. Right, so we've got the placement height, we've got the scale, we got right window copies. These are copies. Let's do window copies. Right, so that's the one. There was another thing. Placement. Right. Window placement. And this will be placement. Placement. Window placement copies, maybe? Placement copies. Now we can also, of course, add a different one for. How complicated do we want to get? Because I could also add one for left to right, in the sense of maybe I want to be able to adjust the original placement of my window, because right now it's at the edge of the wall, but what if I want it to be more closer to the center? Let's not overcomplicate it. Window placement copies. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Let's apply that for now and just get it functional. We can always add more. Now this is the right side, so that is these, I think. Yeah, I know that's left. That is in fact left. Unless we're viewing this one. We were viewing it from the back. I told you I'm going to get confused with the direction. But let's simplify things for half a second. I'm just going to give these a different color so I know these are the ones I'm working on. Right, so we are working on this one. This is window placement copies. Copy. Now I would want to shift these around. Yeah, we're going to work with it. So that is going to be translation. Alright. And then we want copies, number of copies. So that's going to get pasted into there. And then we want height. So that is going to be all the way up here. No, because we've got a match size somewhere, don't we? Where's the match size? It is below it. So technically we want this is centered. So we can do that. And then if we jump into here, but we don't want this to be integer though. Placement height. That does nothing. Did I copy the right one? We want that to be a float. We want that to be a float. That's transform match size. Alright. See, that is the problem. Right, so let us actually edit that. So that's going to be edit parameter. And this is, I'm going to copy that. just so I have it, and then delete parameters. I think in terms of the side windows, it's not necessary for too many controls if it's going to be used for city building. Very true. Very true. I probably need more for the front and the back rather than anything. But we're there now, so I'm halfway there. I'll probably have the ability to change one side. We'll see. We'll see. Right, so copy that parameter, plop it in there, and then let's just see if it's functional now. Why is it not functional? Right, let's quickly check what's going on here. Delete channels. That is functional. Is it maybe that I'm using too high of a value? I wonder if it's actually the boolean that's not working. Not the transform. I want to template the thing. Right, let's see. If I copy that parameter, paste it into here. No, not there. Yeah. Right, I just want to see where it's breaking. I suspected it's this point. Now see, that does work. Why is it not creating a boolean? Unless I somehow eliminated my boolean. No. The number of copies is 0. That is why it's not working. The number of copies is 0. If I change the number of copies, it'll work. So yeah, there's that. I'm sure you will add an apple tree next to this, just to balance with all the windows. We will be adding plants, maybe. I'm not sure where we will be, but it is something I'm considering. I'm also considering doing vines. So we have options. We have options. Right, so if we take these, I only want 2 copies actually. That needs to be a float as well. And that needs to be a float as well. Alright. Let's quickly change that out. Now again, do I need all of these? Probably not. But who knows? And also with the way I'm setting it up, we can choose not to have windows on a wall. So that is the advantage. I can choose only to have 1 window, or I can choose to have 20. Don't feel lame. You're not lame. You're cool because you're here. Right, so this is going to be placement copies. Did I copy it? No, I did not. What was it called? Right, window placement. We already have that. Copies. Oh, this is getting so long though. Right, so that is going to be right. It was half of the swing. I'm sorry. That was my fault. That was my fault. I'll take the blame for that one. I'm the lame one here. And I did see the apples in all caps, and I just completely went over my head. Right. So. Let's see. Window scale. That is fine. Number of copies. So that is going to be first. Then I want number of copies, placement of copies, and scale. But that's supposed to be a float as well. That needs to be a float. So that's going to be deleted. And then plop that into there. Come on. I want you in there, but I don't want you on the bottom. There we go. So we can just plop that into there. Alright, so that's going to be window scale. We'd actually want that at the top, wouldn't we? But I want 2 floats, I don't just want 1. Just copy that. Delete this. Plop that into there. Window scale. Right, now we technically want this at the top. Because the scale is probably the first thing you would change. Right, so accept, and then in terms of what is currently working, the number of copies is working. Alright. Placement will probably be broken, so that will go into the match size. Paste relative reference. I think. No. Placement of copies. So that is technically going in the copy and transform, and that would be in the translation. Probably. Total number of copies, but there's also, there we go. There we go. Now we can change that. Hello. What is happening here? What is happening there? Match size. Oh, because it's connected there. Okay, let me just quickly fix that. So that is going to be window height. So that's going to be copy that parameter. And that is going to get pasted into here. There we go. Now it should work. Now it should work. So that's going to be, this is the height. That is functional. That is functional. We do not have the ability to change the placement of the original window for now, but for these it's functional, so I'm going to leave that at that. And then for the copies, that is functional, so the next thing we want is the scale. So if we take that, plop it into there. We can now do nothing. That's rotation. Delete channels, and that needs to be 0. So it needs to be this one, and that is a-okay, brilliant. And then the other thing we want to be able to adjust is the height, so that's going to be copy that parameter and paste into the transform. There we go, and that's obviously very, very, very squished, but we will fix that. Awesome. We've got that sorted. The only other thing I mentioned is I might want to be able to change the placement of this one. But could also go into negative. Okay. We'll leave it at that. And I think that'll be it for today. We've basically got a somewhat functional, let me just, I can't deal with that not being centered. That's fine. Let's view that. Yeah, that's good. That is good. We've got a lot of options. We can adjust a lot of things, so I am very happy. So next week, actually no, I lie. On Friday, I'll look at implementing the top floor. And most likely we'll be able to reuse 99% of what I built down here and just swap out for a square boolean. Shouldn't take too long. And then what we'll probably do is some form of a copy to points for these slats. I don't want to do booleans for them because if I copy to points and I basically specify the amount of segments, even if I scale everything, I'll still have the what? The wooden planks in the correct location. Where if I scale it and I've used copy to points, I now need to adjust placement again, which is something that is a problem with my current network. But yeah, let's leave it at that. Thank you guys for joining me as always, and I'll see you all next time.